Howdy y'all, and welcome back to I Am Abled Because I Am is Able. I know that Cup of Cheer is coming up very soon, and I do plan on making those videos for you without too much ado. But before I do that, I wanted to take some time out and celebrate the fact that I turned 40 this year, which is both weird and wonderful. And I wanted to share some of my thoughts about that with you. So some of you are probably thinking that the big deal about turning 40 is, well, 40 is a big birthday. But in my family, 40 is a big birthday for a much bigger reason. You see, when my mom was turning 40, the cultural way of celebrating turning 40 revolved greatly around death, dying, and disability. And if you think I'm exaggerating this, I'm not. Every card, every decoration, even cakes that you would buy at the bakery that had 40 on it would usually come with cemetery scenes or over the hill, which was another way of saying everything from here is just downhill. You have peaked. There is nothing good anymore in life. Or some people were actually gifted crutches, canes, wheelchairs, or walkers. Can we all agree that that's just morbid and weird? I mean, I know people's sense of humor is different than mine sometimes, but I don't know. I think personally celebrating one's birthday should be about their life, not about how soon they might die. But maybe that's just because I've battled life for most of my life. While my mom was in the midst of the fact that every 40 birthday celebration theme revolved around death, dying, and disability, she herself was also battling for her life. When she was 39 years old, the doctor sat my mom and my dad down and basically informed them that they needed to prepare themselves because my mom would not survive to her 40th birthday. I wish I were exaggerating right now. We all prepared ourselves for that reality, and we made a big trip to visit my family in a different state. And while we were there, long story short, God healed my mom that summer before her 40th birthday. And if there was any doubt in our mind that that's actually what happened, the doctors insisted on running all the tests again because, we want to make sure that she didn't just imagine that she has been healed. And sure enough, every test that they ran confirmed that she had been healed from this grave diagnosis. And yes, I have her consent to share that much. For the past couple of years, the thought of turning 40 has never felt right unless my mom could celebrate with me. Because it strikes me that the first birthday of hers that I vividly remember was the one that she almost didn't survive for, her 40th birthday. And now I get to celebrate my 40th birthday. And the thought of having her here for that blows my mind with just amazement and gratitude. And here I am. I have now celebrated my 40th birthday, both in just the passing of the calendar date, and also we have now celebrated my birthday, which is pretty awesome too. And I'll get to that in just a moment. But I am so glad that the sentiment of what turning 40 is has so much changed since she turned 40. Now, when you turn 40, the decorations and the cards and Etsy and all of those things, the main themes are you're in your 40s era, or vintage 1985, or 40 and fabulous. And I am very happy with any one of those. Honestly, I think it's pretty cool. I'm happy to be vintage 40. I'm happy to be vintage 1985. I am fine being 40 and fabulous. I think that's pretty cool. I honestly was more excited to celebrate this birthday than my 30th birthday, for sure, for so many different reasons. But especially because I get to share this with my mom. And there were so many times that we didn't know if she would survive because she's had a few other health issues that have arisen in the past decade or so. And I myself had been told more than once that I should prepare myself, that I wasn't going to survive X amount of time. I mean, honestly, when I was born, I was a preemie, and they didn't even think I'd survive that, and I did. And then I almost bled to death when I was about 5 or 6 years old. But I'm still here. And then there was that time when I was about to graduate high school, and I was not diagnosed properly with celiac, and I almost died then. But I'm still here. Now, I know I'm making light of this situation because it's hard for me to be as emotional as I feel about it. But as I've been recording so many different versions of this because it's so hard to get all the words out right, the one thing that keeps coming to mind is how amazing it is, despite all of the times that we shouldn't be here. All of the times that we have fought both physically and emotionally and spiritually with what has been going on with our bodies and with our life. God has been so gracious and has given us just what we needed, just when we needed. And He has pulled us through all of these times, even when it hurt like crazy. I find it ironic that for my 40th birthday, I had so many messages, both video and audio and text, that had a slight hint of, they felt ironically sorry for me that I was turning 40 because I guess a lot of people can be kind of depressed about turning 40. And I get it. There's a lot of things that can really change in a person's life when they turn 40. And if I doubted that, the social media algorithms are quick to remind me. Everybody thinks that your body's going to fall apart and that everything's going to change and that it's pretty much everything's downhill from here. Which is strange because thankfully, culturally, when it comes to decorations and birthday cards, that's no longer the sentiment, but we still act like that's the idea on social media. But for me, I mean, honestly, number one, I heard this week that 40 is middle-aged, and I don't agree, because that's very pessimistic. Yes, it's true. This could be halfway through my life, but that is assuming that I'm going to die at 80 years old, when the average lifespan is well into their 80s. So that's kind of weird to me. Secondly, my dad's side of the family especially often has lived well into their 90s, some into their hundreds. So, I'm not taking that bet that this is exactly halfway into my life. I just find that really strange. Secondly, if you're worried about the fact that I am going to be terrified that my body is going to fall apart, I don't know a more tactful way to phrase this except it already has. Every year seems to have a different kind of battle in my life anyways. Ever since I was 10 to 14 years old. Actually, pretty much since I was born. I have had a different physical challenge arise almost every single year. And the doctors still don't know what to make of it. There's just something that just happens all the time. And would I like to figure it out and get on top of it and have my body suddenly be better? Yeah. Would I like for God to just heal me of all of this like He did of my mom's death sentence? Yeah. But God has brought me through. And He's still bringing me through. Now, I know that the hormone shift is going to happen. And I don't know what that's going to look like. I have some ideas based on family history. I'm not looking forward to it. But I've had hormone weirdness most of my life. And God has brought me through so much. And I don't want a number on the calendar to be what freaks me out about everything. Because there's enough that's freaking me out about life. I don't need that on top of it. I don't want that on top of it. I still say I look pretty awesome for 40 years old. I know, that's bragging. But honestly, I'm bragging more on my family genes that God gave me, so, is it really a bad thing? I don't know, maybe. But as someone recently messaged me and said, "You don't look like older than 20. I jokingly, but partially seriously said, well, I look 20, I feel 60. I guess it's only fair that I'm actually somewhere in between at 40. Technically, I'm right smack dab in between at 40. I don't know. I just find it slightly laughable that everyone thinks that 40 is when things fall apart. I don't know. It's been falling apart for like ever for me. But I will say one thing. If you have made it this far in this video, the one piece of advice that I wish everybody could hear is, please, when you get to the point where you start having your body fall apart and all those things, and you find yourself in a group of people that includes a chronically disabled young person, please do not look at that young person and tell them anything like this. Kid, don't get old. You're just gonna fall apart. I've never understood that. I have never understood that piece of advice because that's basically saying that I should just end my life early or give up on life early and just be depressed. And nobody needs that. I understand, like, older people, they have a hard time dealing with their health, and maybe they're trying to warn people a little bit, like, you know, when you get older, it's really hard, and I get that. But don't say this to a young person who's barely getting by day to day. If you know that they're dealing with a chronic health situation, which, yes, some of my senior citizen friends did know that, and not so tactfully said these exact type of things. That was one of the most painful things that I've had to work through mentally and emotionally through the years. It's true, for some weird reason, once we hit a certain age and have certain medical conditions, for some reason, when we get together with other people of that age or physical bracket, we tend to talk a lot about those health issues. I don't know why. And I wish I could stop it, but I'll be honest, I'm already doing it, and I'm only 40, so there is that. But just be careful who you say it to. If you're at a kid's party, maybe save it for later. Anyhow, I am so grateful to every single person that was a part of making my birthday bash possible. It was a small party, and it was something that I didn't know would be possible for my mom and I to even be a part of again, let alone have thrown for us again. And I know that might sound pessimistic, as I just said, you know, some things are. But honestly, with all of our health conditions, we wear masks when we go out around more than like 4 people. And we have since before the pandemic, since well before that, because we have low immune systems and we've battled a lot of things. So the thought of having a small party or a large party, kind of a big deal. So for my 40th, I knew I couldn't handle the physical and mental stress of whether or not to invite people, who to invite, how many people to invite or not to invite, or what to do. So I asked my mom and my bestie and my dear friend to plan all of that and not let me know. I didn't want to know the number of people that were invited. I gave a list of people they could invite, and I gave them different reasons of why I would want more or less or whatever, but I left it in their hands and said, I can't know how many people are coming. So people RSVP'd to my bestie and to my mom and to my dear friend, and my bestie and my dear friend came partially the day before and partially the morning of, helped decorate, helped, you know, do last minute cleaning stuff in some places. And we had a small party and it was so wonderful. And it was great to be able to actually celebrate with a group of friends and laugh and play and just rejoice together for a while. And then they had put together a video message from a video projection of messages from around the world of loved ones of mine who are wishing me happy birthday. And oh my goodness, it just felt so wonderful to be showered with love from so many people. And I just wanted to take a moment with this video to thank God for making this possible. Even to the date that this worked out, there were 2 other dates before this that were supposed to be when we had the party and the celebration or whatever we wanted to call it, but they didn't work out. And this very day was like one of the best weeks, best days that I've had in a very long time. And God knew exactly when the party needed to be and exactly who needed to be at the party, exactly how many people needed to be at the party. Everything was so worked together for good. And it was so beautiful. And to anyone who got the invitation or didn't, or prayed with me during this time that I've been stressed about this upcoming number, whatever amount of encouragement or work that you put into helping us celebrate this, thank you. Thank you for every prayer, for every word of encouragement, for every act of generosity, for being the hands and feet of Jesus. Thank you. It means the world to us. I am still so confused that I'm 40 years old. I feel like this girl right here, like, so often. I still am so confused within my own self that, like, my body forces me to be like an introvert, but emotionally, I am so an extrovert. Honestly, after the party was over, I was so Eliza Doolittle. If you don't know the reference, let's just say I felt like I could have danced all night. Honestly, it was so awesome. And I have really learned this year that despite how much my nervous system goes haywire when I'm around too many people sometimes, or when I'm traveling, and when those are combined, it's even worse. When God puts it all together just right, and I'm around people when my nervous system can handle it, I am still very much an extrovert. And I need that now and then. And God knows that I need that. And I am so thankful that I had that opportunity, especially with how much homebound I've had to be this year. With so many different trials and good things, the highs and the lows of things, I am still riding a high from my birthday and still so thankful for every individual that was any part of this. And if you've made it this far, bless your heart. in all the ways possible. Bless your heart. I don't really know how to end this, except to say thanks for coming along on this journey with me. Thanks for hearing out some of the blessings and the confusions or whatever it may be revolving around being 40. It is still a big number. I'm still a little confused about how I feel about being 40. Mostly just because I don't feel 40. I feel like this was my 30th birthday, but I know it was my 40th. I think the pandemic slightly confused things. But anyways, I think the thing that's hardest for me, if I'm to be honest though, the hardest bit for me about being 40 is that means that so many people in my life are more in their 60s and their 70s. And that's hard. That's harder than me being 40. Honestly, 40 to me doesn't feel old. I laugh because, like, this is the age my parents were. This was the age my parents' friends were. So when people say something like, okay, at my party, someone called Bill Murray an old man, and that made me bust up because I don't see him as an old man. And that confused my friend because she's like, isn't he an old man? And I'm like, okay. But see, logically, I see where you're coming from. However, he's the age of my parents, and I don't see my parents as old. And I especially, like, I wasn't introduced to his work, now. I was introduced to his work when they were my parents' age, which is kind of my age now. So, no, he's not an old man in my head. He's just an example, but it was because it was in conversation about a movie that he happened to be in. But yeah, so, I don't know. That's the weird and the wonderful and the everything in between of me being 40 years old. Thanks for coming along for the ride of it. I hope that the sound quality and the lighting has been good for you. I'm trying out some new toys that I got for my birthday, so we'll see how this all works out. Hopefully you will see me again very soon in Cup of Cheer videos. And one last shout out. Thank you to my bestie for this awesome shirt. Yes, this is me. Talk to y'all later. Thanks again for coming along. Thanks again for all your prayers. God bless y'all. Ciao for now. Bye.